Thanks for coming back to the Minuteman Prep YouTube channel. My name is Ben, and I'm going to be going over one of the easiest ways to get into solar backup. There's a question that I get really often, so I wanted to make sure I address it with you guys. And the question is, how can I get solar backup without breaking the bank? Now, there are lots of ways to do this. Between DIY systems is going to be the most affordable. But the problem with that is you need to have a little bit of experience or be willing to make some mistakes while doing that process. Many people just want to buy a system that's ready to go out of the box, and that's why I like this system right here, which is the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. It's not one that's going to break the bank. It's going to cover all base necessities and then as well give you a little bit of luxury as well. So I want to go over all of that in detail in this video because this may be an option that works for you. If you want something that's going to run your house, this is not it. If you want something to run your vital essentials, this is definitely a good system to look at and can easily run lots of equipment like fridges, freezers, CPAPs, fans, lights, and similar type items. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. As you can see behind me, I test a lot of systems, and I have a whole other shelf over here with more systems, as well as another shelf in my office with even more systems. So I test a lot of equipment, and that's one of my hobbies, and I love doing that and sharing that with you guys. So if you find this information helpful, please make sure to leave a like or comment with what system you're running or what you're interested in getting. Now, all of the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today can be found pretty much everywhere, but I'm going to try to consolidate it right here in this video. And if you want to get a system at a discounted price, you can just go to poweredportablesolar.com, or if you want a little bit of help customizing what's going to work best for you, just shoot me an email to info@poweredportablesolar.com. I'll be more than happy to help you out. But the Delta 2 Max is the newest version of the Delta Max. And the biggest upgrade is that it has a lithium iron phosphate battery, as well as more solar input split between two MPPT charge controllers. Now, I know this is going to be a little hard to read, but right on the top here, this actually tells you all the specs of the unit. You can have up to 2 expansion batteries, and each battery is going to be 2,048 watt hours. The solar input here is from 11 to 60 volts, and then up to 15 amps, and that's for 2 input ports. So each port is going to be doing 500 watts of input, where you can get 1,000 watts input. That's one of the reasons why I like this unit so much, is that it has the highest solar input for a system of this size and price range. Out of all the other systems out there, between Bluetti and whoever else, this is the one that has the highest solar input for one of this size. The inverter is rated to 2,400 watts. It is pure sine wave, which means it's going to run everything really well, as long as it's 120 volt power. And not only that, but you can pair wall charging as well as solar charging at the same time with this. So if you are in a pinch, you can recharge this from a gas generator very quickly because this does have an X-Boost charger in it, which means it can charge up to 1,800 watts at one time. So you can go from about 0% to 80% in about an hour, which is a really fast recharge time for this. And you can pair that with the solar input. Now, the other cool thing is you can actually use Delta 1 Max batteries with the Delta 2 Max. The difference is that these are lithium NMC versus lithium iron phosphate. So the lithium NMC is going to be rated to about 800 cycles, and the lithium iron phosphate is going to be rated about 3,500 cycles. But all the specs aside, really what we're trying to get at is what can you run off of this? Now, there are multiple facets to this. The first is the inverter. There are 3 important parts to a solar generator or a power station, whichever you want to call it. And the first is an inverter, the second is the battery capacity and expandability, and then the third is the solar input. Now, on the inverter is going to be able to run things from the battery. The inverter is the engine, the batteries are the fuel tank. With the EcoFlow Delta 2 Max, you can have up to 2 expansion batteries getting over 6,000 watt hours of battery capacity. So the first reason why I like it is 2,400 watts of output capacity means it can easily handle pumps like sump pumps that even draw a lot of power all of a sudden, as well as fridges, freezers, all your basic items. It's going to be able to run it. If you can plug it into an outlet in your house, you're going to be able to run it off of this without any issues. But then the follow-up question is, how long can you run it? So for a 2,000 watt hour battery, I can run 2,000 watts of power for 1 hour. That's how watts and watt hours work with each other. So 2,000 watts for 1 hour would be 2,000 watt hours, or 200 watts for 10 hours is going to be 2,000 watt hours. So you just take however much you're going to run at once, divide that into the battery capacity, and that's going to give you your total hours of runtime. So where this really comes in is running a refrigerator, a freezer, lights, fans, chargers for whether it's tools or your phone or your radio or things like that, as well as Wi-Fi, TV. Every now and then some people ask me about running a gaming system, so I'll throw that in there as well. Where this is not going to shine is running things like portable air conditioners or central air conditioning. It's not going to do those. A portable air conditioner will generally use about 1200 to 1400 watts to run, and the max solar input is 1000 watts, which means if I had 1000 watts going in and 1400 watts going out, there's going to be a surplus of 400 watts that's going to be running from the batteries, and the 1000 watts coming in from the panels is going to be running that other 1000 watts of the air conditioner. Where it could work is with a small 5000 BTU window air conditioner, but one of those roll around portable kind, not going to do it. And because this can only do 120 volt power, you're never going to be able to run central AC because that uses 240 volt power. There is no adapter for this to do 240 volt. So the second part that I like about it is the battery expandability. By having 6,000 watt hours of battery capacity, I can easily run those items that I listed off, including the fridge, freezer, lights, fans, and those things, all through a night without any issues. Typically, there's enough battery capacity with 6,000 watt hours so you can run all of that and be around 30 or 40% in the morning. Now, the beauty of that is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room in the morning, whether it's cloudy or it's a different time of year when the sun doesn't come up until later in the morning. That extra battery capacity is going to help you get through those poor weather or less solar peak hour times of year. So in my opinion, definitely want to have the 2 extra batteries. I've been doing this for like 7 or 8 years now, and I've never once had anyone tell me that they wish they had less battery capacity, but we have people order expansion batteries almost every day. So it tells you people always want more battery capacity. So if you can, work towards having more battery capacity. To that point as well, no one's ever told me they wish they had less solar panels. And the solar panels are actually the most affordable part of a system like this. Getting extra panels and maxing that out is going to be the first way you can optimize your system. This system is also a really good option for RVers who are not running the air conditioning and who are running the fridge on propane. RV refrigerators use a ton of energy. So if you have an RV where you're using it on propane and you're not running the air conditioner, this is going to be a good setup. You'll just use a 15 amp to 30 amp adapter on this because it doesn't have an RV plug. But if you're in a van life setup, this is going to be one of your best options because it's one of the most energy dense to size ratios. It's also very configurable, which is great for tight spaces, whether it's under a bed or in a compartment in an RV or a van. You can see I've got the main unit here, one expansion battery here, and another one here. I can also put this expansion battery on top of this and stack it, or I can have this one on top and the other expansion battery here, or I can have them side by side. But if you are going to go side by side, it's generally easiest to have the main unit in the middle and then the 2 expansion batteries on the side. One thing to keep in mind is that if you order this system and you do not order solar panels at the same time, you are not going to get their XT60i to MC4 adapter. It's not going to be included, and you do need the XT60i. This is the XT60. It has a yellow connection. You need the one with an orange connection. It's able to handle higher amps. I just had these laying around, so just using them as an example, but you're not going to get those cables with this system unless you also order solar panels. Now, if you go to poweredportablesolar.com to order it, those are going to be included at no additional cost. So that's one of the ways that we help people save a little bit of money and customize the system to people's needs. So that way they open the box and they know they've got everything ready to go. But if you order from poweredportablesolar.com, it is included. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the solar input. You have to stay within 11 to 60 volts on your solar input. And then you can go up to 15 amps of solar input. So generally it's pretty easy to max out the solar panel input on this, but I really wish that EcoFlow had made a better decision with the MPPT charge controller. It's a lot easier to just put lots of panels in series and have a higher voltage than it is to have a higher amperage. When you get a higher amperage setup, you have to have thicker gauge wire and you have more resistance. And so it's just easier to go with higher voltage because voltage is really easy to send over distance. So I could have my solar panels 200 feet away and then have less drop in my energy that goes from there to here if I have higher voltage, lower amps. So that's probably one of the few things that I dislike about the system is I wish it had a higher voltage. I would have liked to have seen at least 100 volts because then it's really easy to mix and match different types of panels. Ideally, I would have preferred up to 150 volts, just like they did on the Delta Pro system, and still up to 15 amps. That's your VOC number on your solar panels. If you're gonna get your own solar panels, check the VOC. And when you connect panels in series, that means if panel 1's connected to panel 2, your voltage will go up and your amps will stay the same. So if you're gonna attach solar panels to this, then make sure that you are below 60 volts. And it's okay if you go over on the 15 amps, but anything above 15 amps, you're not going to get on input. So if you have 40 volts and 10 amps, you're going to get 400 watts of input. That's where you want to be at 60 volts and at least 10 amps to be at 600 watts, because solar panels rarely make their rated output. And so that way you can get the actual 500 watts input into this. I've had this unit for a while now, and I've never had an issue getting the full 1000 watts. That's one of the things that I do love about EcoFlow, is I can actually get the rated input on their newest units. Whereas previously with EcoFlow, and of course pretty much everyone else, it's very rare that you get the rated input. So it's a little bit of false advertising in my opinion, just because I want to be able to get what it says. And so sometimes you have to over panel to get what it says. And with this, it's not hard to get that full 500 watts input per solar input port. So if you're looking for a portable system that's lightweight, easy to move around, you can use it in many different types of situations where you don't need 240 volt power and you're not going to be running crazy heavy loads like air conditioners, then this is something to look at. Same with space heaters. I should mention, space heaters use even more energy than air conditioners do generally. Space heaters just use a ton of energy. You're better off getting a propane or kerosene heater because those two fuel types don't really go bad. And since we're talking about emergency preparedness here, this is going to be good for those essentials, but for luxuries such as cooling and heating, it's not going to do as well. So if you need to run air conditioning or something like that, you're going to want to jump to a bigger system like the Delta Pro, or if you just shoot me an email to info@poweredportablesolar.com, I'm going to help you find what works best for you. I'm not loyal to a brand. I don't represent a single brand. I just test all these units and tell you guys which one is going to work for different types of situations. If you find that helpful, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. We got lots more content coming out, including taking our whole house off grid, as well as doing a new upgrade on our off-grid cabin. RV setup, we're going to put in a whole battery bank and dedicated inverter in the RV, so that way we have a dedicated system in there that never leaves it, and it's just always powered up, ready to go. So if that interests you, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe, as well as lots of other unrelated to solar content coming out. Appreciate you all very much. I'll see you on the next video.